Hello there, people of YouTube. In today's video, we're going to be doing some installing. So if you've been following my progress, obviously you know that on my Jeep I've installed GMRS by Midland. This is MXT115 with a 6 dBi antenna, and I also have the motorhome. And so there is a need for me to have a GMRS antenna and radio in the motorhome as well, so that sometimes in certain circumstances when it's easier to not tow anything behind the motorhome, to kind of travel in tandem. So one of the things that brought this on is when I was in Silverton, Colorado. I spoke about how difficult it was for me to tow a car hauler trailer with my Toyota Tacoma on it, and just how scary and crazy difficult it was to actually go up and up and up and up, all the way from Ouray over the mountain pass and then down into Silverton. So as I was leaving Silverton, I knew that I didn't want to repeat that whole thing, considering all the way to Durango, Colorado was basically non-stop down. The only possible thing that I could think of at the time is there's a little tiny shop in Silverton, like a hardware store. And so they sold like little walkie-talkies that I bought for $25. And so when the motorhome and the truck moved, obviously it was two different people driving it, and we were using walkie-talkies to kind of mosey on all the way from Silverton, Colorado, all the way to Durango. So I'm like, okay, well, great, but you gotta think about the batteries and gotta think about all of this stuff. As my adventures keep ramping up in life, I have to think forward, and I have to think of a more permanent solution. So I didn't want to go and buy myself another MXT500 because it is darn expensive. So my other options were the MXT400, which is cheaper, or MXT275, and then there's the MXT115. So 115 will do basically everything that I wanted to do. I'm not looking for range. I'm not looking for kind of spread out type deal, right? We're talking about driving in a caravan, maybe at most being, I don't know, 100 to a couple hundred feet away from each other. So I'm like, well, you know. So I saw a sale on MXT115 and plus a coupon, so it came out even cheaper. It was just too difficult to pass up. So if you don't know anything about GMRS radios, GMRS is kind of like a CB, a walkie-talkie kind of sort of thing, you know, like truckers have and like in all the old movies from the 70s. The difference is that GMRS is a newer type technology. It's broader reaching, it's higher wattage and all this other stuff. But the trick is you need to get a license to operate GMRS. Basically, you pay the government X amount of dollars and they issue a license for 10 years to operate. The limit to how powerful they are is measured in watts. So MXT500 and 575 is 50 watts. MXT 275 and 115 are 15 watts. So what I'm gonna be installing on my motorhome is a 15 watt radio, which is more than plenty to kind of accomplish everything that I want. So I'm gonna show you a couple of things in how it's set up on the Jeep to get you somewhat of an understanding about how it all works. And then I've already installed some bits and bobs on the motorhome, And today I'm supposed to be getting a package with the actual radio. So some of it will be filmed out of sequence. But I'm gonna walk you through all the steps about how I have done this on my motorhome. And those of you that want to do either with a CB radio or GMRS radio or whatever is your choice, you could do it kind of sort of like that. Alright, well, if you want to know how I've installed this on my Jeep, I have a separate video specifically about how I installed this on my Jeep. But I wanted to talk to you about just the basic principles. Like, this is the 101 level. This over here is the radio, right? And that's the microphone. And that over there is Alright, well, that's a good reason to be interrupted. UPS just delivered me the 115 model. In any event, so the basic principle is, this is the radio. This is the basically what allows you to switch channels and has all sorts of buttons. But for what I'm gonna need to do is basically just use one thing. It has multiple channels. You just dial in to whatever channel is appropriate, and basically to speak, you pick this up, you press this, and you talk into it. The antennas are actually kind of tricky. If you follow any of the die-hard ham radio YouTube channels, GMRS channels, CB channels, like, there's tons of content creators out there that have own opinion about all of this and how it all works, and there's a lot of opinions on the matter, right? But for an average person who is not, you know, aspiring to be a super duper radio thing, Midland produces product that is basically turnkey. You just take this out of the box and you connect it and all that. So from what I understand, actually, this being an exception over here, because this requires more power, but this actually has a plug for your cigarette lighter. So technically speaking, you don't even need to splice this into any wiring. In my particular case, I will absolutely splice it. And I'm going to show you in separate clips about how to do all that. But the thing about antennas, they require a ground plane. So the trick, for example, on my Jeep, this is a vinyl fabric roofing. That's really bad for your ground planes. If this was fiberglass, like hard tops on the Jeeps, this would also be a bad thing. So the motorhome, which is located right there, obviously has a TPO or UPDM roof, depending on your motorhome or travel trailer. And there are no ground planes on the roof. So Midland actually provides an adhesive with this setup that acts like a ground plane for you to stick on. Based on all the research that I've done, that amount of, like, the contact area is egregiously small. Okay, but at the very least, it will get you your foot in the door. Now, I'm gonna show you what this looks like on my Jeep. So this is their 6 dBi antenna over here, right? And if you notice, I actually have it on the hood of the Jeep. So the hood of the Jeep, technically, if this was a metal hood, would act like a ground plane, right? But this isn't, and it doesn't, right? But their equipment is so good that I have actually tested this, even with the fiberglass hood that appears on Rubicons, or maybe this is aluminum, I forgot which one that is. But in any event, this works like 30 something miles through extremely heavy traffic and terrain and all this. Like I was just like taken aback by just how powerful their antennas are and their radios are. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna take, not this, but I've already installed it on the motorhome, and I'll show you in a different clip about how a much smaller antenna, about yay big, is going to be mounted on the roof of the motorhome. And so for the limited range that the two vehicles are going to be traveling in tandem, this isn't going to be that big of a deal. In the future, if I ever wanted to increase the range, I would not be installing 6 dBi antenna. I would be installing 3 dBi, which is a short little stubby thing. Reason being is because the motorhome is already sitting high up, and installing something like this wouldn't allow me to clear overpasses. So I'm gonna unbox this, and we'll just have to figure out where and how to mount this in the cab of the Class C RV over there. So one of the things that needs to be done on the radio side, the same thing that I did with the Jeep, the power has to be fed to it. So I already have positive and negative that previously went to the switch right there, over there. Okay, so that switch basically was supposed to turn on and off the DC to DC charger, which went kablamo, and I've made a separate video about that. So the wiring that goes to it is positive and negative, and it's the same gauge cable that I'm going to be using for the radio itself. So I decided once I actually get the radio, I'll undo the wiring over here and figure out what needs to be done. But in case you're wondering how to feed your cable in through, basically you're gonna have to finagle with the dash the way I've done that. If you have a Class C, you could take this thing and pry this off, basically to almost like you had to remove the screen over there, and then you could get to the back of this and feed your cable in through, and now would be a good time for you to feed all the cables that you ever wanted, because you only want to do this once. It totally sucks having to undo this multiple times, but is what it is. So all of that, oh, by the way, in case you have like a cable snake or anything like that, that works wonders just as well. So all of that goes there behind all of that, into that whole area. So the other side of the cables, when you pry this side panel off, there's a whole bunch of different wires and looms and everything else that goes through there, right? And you see this big giant hole with the red cable going through it, right? So that basically goes to the outside. Again, in case you ever wonder how your rodents get in, this is a giant hole that at the RV factory level and at the vehicle level, they really don't care to plug. So that's just, but anyways, so what you do is you run the cable in through the hole, and then again, you're gonna have to feed your cables through literally on the other side of this metal and have them come out. And I have plenty of videos with me popping the hood up. So basically that positive and negative connects to the battery that's over here. So once I get the radio station, I'm gonna do all of that, but not before, because I need to be looking at the wiring and figuring out all of that. But it's basically connecting positive and negative, and then going back up. And as a matter of fact, I'm about to put the antenna up in there that came with my MXT115, because it's the same one. And the actual radio, I will have to figure out where to put it. Quite possibly there. Reasoning being is because there's like a cubby hole right, I think I'm just picking this up. So like right where my hand is, if camera ever. Like, see how there's a cubby hole that goes in the middle? I think that's about the perfect size for the radio station. That would just fit there perfectly. It would obviously require me to disassemble this. But since I don't use that area to begin with, that would be just a perfect place for it, because I really don't have a thing to mount. I guess I could put the radio like underneath of this, but then coming in and out, I might be hitting it. I don't know, I'll see once I get the radio. So it's either going to be mounted underneath of this or in there, either or. Alright, those of you that have wondered how I have this wired, the two red wires that I was, or the black and the red that goes on the other side of this that I was talking about, comes out over here, obviously zip tied out of the way, positive and negative. Do yourself a favor, install one of these. This is a battery disconnect. When your motorhome is in storage, or even on your parking lot, just disconnect that. So even if I accidentally left my radio on over there, this is not going to allow it to drain the battery. It's as simple as that. And if you notice, the negative is actually tied to this side, so this is permanently disconnected. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Right, so I'm gonna film this from the vantage point of the driver, because that's ultimately what's important here. So over here I have my brake controller for when I'm towing my Jeep. This is my TST tire pressure system. I've actually ordered a second one. Second one is going on my Jeep. I think I fell in love with this so much that I had to get me another one. I just don't see myself ever towing anything ever again without that. So if you notice, the reason why I'm showing you this from the driver's side is I want everything to be accessible. Right now, another thing, I'm driving, right? I'm looking forward. I don't have the luxury of reaching and stretching, right? I want everything to be like, I look over here, I see this, I can reach the brake controller. I look over here, I see, you know, this is my rear view camera, as well as that over there. So, I could see all the thingamajigs associated with the tire system. The radio has to be here, right? But the problem is I can't mount this over there because I'm not going to be able to see, you know, the things that are pertinent. Like, for example, if it's mounted there, I don't know what channel I'm on. If I'm here, right, I need to get my eyes off the road, look down, figure out which channel I'm on, and all this stuff. Now, if this was mounted kind of sort of like this, this would be more or less out of the way. But it's still such a weird angle for me to look at it. There's really no place to, other than maybe here or something ish, to mount this. So I'm gonna have to play around with where specifically I want this, because I don't want that obstructing my view. And in case you're wondering, this is probably easily half the size of Midland MXT115. So this is like a baby kind of system. It would be awfully cool to have it like there-ish somewhere, but then I'm gonna have a radio dangling, interfering with my view. I don't want that. So I have to give it some thought, but you know, since I'm recording this live, those are just my thoughts out loud. all over the place, but now you kind of sort of see why I'm going through all the steps and all the what about this over there? Well, yeah, but I'm gonna have a phone, so that's gonna block that. All right, well, let me play with it some. I'll get back to you. All right, bear with me. This is kind of sort of how I envision it to be. So I'm gonna have a radio kind of mounted over there, so that you could still pass through. The speaker is going to be facing where my thumb is. I could still see what the numbers are. And then this microphone is actually going to be lower, like adhere to where my thumb is right now. And it's going to be somewhat easy to mount this because, by the way, don't mount this on adhesive if you're doing, doesn't matter which model. On my Jeep, I mounted this, and naturally in Florida heat, the sticky fell off. So, screw it in. So, right on the other side of this, there's thick, hard plastic. So, I'm going to be mounted this there so that it sits there. I'm still going to have access to the hole over there, so that's good. It means I haven't lost my storage. I'm guessing in the original configuration on like vans and everything, you're supposed to be storing manuals and other things in there, but it's just such a weird place to, I don't know, whatever. So I'm gonna be mounting this. Now, I talked about in a different video clip about the power. So power, I'm gonna have to address that. I think what I'll do is I'll also splice this switch, because it's gonna give me a very good visual indication if this is accidentally left on. So I'll have to play with that. But the actual antenna is going to screw in, so it's going to be like there-ish somehow. So I'll have to play with it and see what and how and why, but at least I found a place for it. Alright, so I thought I should point this out. In a Class C motorhome, I don't know, yours might be different. This is Ford E450 chassis. Basically, this whole thing is, it's not even held by, it sits on. So if you look on the back of this, it had slots and everything like that, right? So this whole thing sits there on this, that, and this. And I got my cordless drill out so that I could unscrew this. And lo and behold, that's not actually what's holding this whole mechanism. Now, this whole construction is held together by these, and that's how you generally access the engine compartment on the back side of the motorhome. In theory, I could drill a hole here as well. I really don't want to. I don't know what's behind. I don't even want to go there. So, but to get this off, basically what you do is you grab it and then you give it, and it just slides out really easy. Like, I didn't put any kind of effort into it. So gonna be drilling a hole. This antenna over there, I figured it's probably 13/16, and so my goal is to drill a hole somewhere there-ish, or something of the sort, so that I could pass through the wire from the antenna there-ish. And I think that that would be a logical place for me to do so, more or less. Nice and easy. The other option that I could do is there somewhere, I guess, maybe. But this already has a thingamajig of sorts, so that's where I'm going to be drilling the hole. Alright, so before I pull the wires back through, I thought I should share. My initial thought was to extend the standard wiring through behind all the dash, but then I thought about it and I'm like, wait a minute, I have the wiring that came with the actual radio and it's fused, and since I've already drilled a hole on the back of this, that's going to go in there, right? And so the only thing I'm really pulling back through is that. Now I did have to use my snake, which is this over here. If you don't already have a snake, swing by Harbor Freight Tools. You could buy one for less than 10 bucks, even less if you have a coupon. So to do that, I basically took this, slid this kind of sort of there, had to shove my hand in there and feel for it because it's not a straight shot. Once I was able to grab it with 2 fingers, I snaked it back here, tied the radio antenna to it, tied the end of this so that I could actually pull the power cord back, since I'm not going to be needing this. But and that's what this is. You could see how I've already taped it. So now once I pull on this black cable, I'll be taking this wire back through there. Obviously make sure that as you're pulling anything to anywhere, that it doesn't get snagged, doesn't get caught, and that you're not actually pulling entire cord with you. So make sure to leave some and actually hold on to the cord. That helps tremendously. So my connection point, instead of being behind there, is actually going to be there. Alright, so I'm sitting here in the passenger seat. The wires have been tidied up, all out of the way. This isn't going to bother me. I would rather prefer it like so. And I've done it in such a way that I could pull this wire out towards me so that I could actually exchange the fuse, because if it was all the way in the back, that would be a problem. So this wiring over here, I just left it loose for time being. I think I'm gonna tidy this up just a little bit, maybe put like a wire loom on it or something, just to keep it tidier. Alright, so this switch over here that I previously had on my DC to DC charger, basically that's what's going to act as a double kind of safety measure. When this is on, you could see that it, you know, the light is on and your eyes are immediately drawn to it. Okay. And so this is the actual radio, and the way that would work is this is flipped on, this is flipped on, right? One thing I don't like about this setup is that on my MXT115, this knobby thing actually turns the channels. So this is actually a volume knob over here. So basically to switch channels, you would have to click through those. Kind of like that. And then just to demonstrate to you that it actually works, this is the weather forecast.
Showers with a slight chance of thunderstorms. Winds and seas higher and there are thunderstorms.
And then to turn it off. And so the beautiful thing about it is that I'm going to be able to reach it while driving, or whoever is driving this motorhome, while I'm driving the Jeep, and we're actually able to communicate. And then this is off. Boom. So in the next video clip, I'm gonna show you oh, by the way, I didn't have to remove this. So I've to remove this piece, I just grabbed onto here and I just pushed it up, and it just like literally popped up. So I've taken the snake, I've put it through this hole, kind of diagonally. Now this over here, not to be confused with the hole right behind it, because if you stick your finger right there, you could feel, if you stick it far enough, you could feel how there's somewhat of a ridge, right? So you need to get behind the ridge and it will pop up over there. So in the next video clip, I'm gonna show you how I've wired the antenna and how all of that works. And other than that, this would be a good time for me to actually sit over here and play around with this a little bit. So let's see how that works. Again, one thing I've learned from driving long distances in RVs is that when you're driving long distances in RVs, pulling over somewhere and going to just rearrange anything is a big pain in the ass. So if it's water, then I always carry extra water here, because if it's over there, it doesn't do you any good. So same thing with this. So I'm driving, right? Both hands on the wheel, obviously. Reach here. Boom. And then to talk, you just press the thingamajig, or you could hold it like that. And then this goes straight back there. Boom. Just like that. And this is out of the way enough to allow entry into the passenger seat, and in the driver I could still reach behind it. There's tons of storage space on the bottom. I still have use of all of my cup holders and all the other bits and bobs and everything else. Normally if I'm traveling, like I said, long distances, I have coins over here for change in case I ever need to go through the toll. My AirPods are sitting over here. Sunglasses available. Sometimes I also keep another set over here. And then obviously arrange this in such a way that everything is within reach. So let me go ahead and show you how I've wired antenna. And yep. Alright, so in case you want to know how I wired that component, so this is the Midland magnetic slash adhesive mount over there, and then it's going through the slide out awning, or rather the actual awning mechanism, going through there. And just so you know, individual results may vary. In this case, I was able to slide the end through this over here, but over here you're not going to be able to do that. So it's actually just like stock wiring. It's going to go over the stem on the outside, and then it goes down, and all of that. All right, now when I went to Utah and Colorado the first time, I had this crazy idea to have a GoPro charging mechanism, by which I had cables that go from the inside. So this is where all of that is from. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna recycle those, and so the antenna is going to go like this, and then through conduit underneath of this, and then come on. Had a somewhat of a wasp situation, you know, crazy stuff. For there's a couple of dead ones, and same on the other side. Crazy stuff, right? Like, I look over my entire motorhome once a week, and so this is what they did in less than a week's time. And I have similar one on the other side as well. But nevertheless, this is what generally covers wiring inside your channel. So you're gonna need a couple of screwdrivers to pop it out of there. But the goal is to take this cable, slide it through the conduit over there, and then I have to feed it. Now, if you have a motorhome or whatever, you could slide cables through the holes. You know, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, where are the mice coming from, or where are the bugs coming from? Well, your motorhome has tons and tons of holes in it. So but unfortunately the end of it doesn't go there. The end does fit in this hole, in where this grommet is. I don't know what this looks like from the underneath. I know that this stair, being removable, has some holes in it with grommets as well. So my goal is the MXT115 that I have on my pickup truck came with 6-meter cable, which is what is it, like 18 feet. The 115 that I just ordered, that's supposed to be going inside my motorhome, also will come with the same mount. So I figured, you know what, I have some downtime, so the trick is, because this is a motorhome, is to have just enough line to go from yay to yay to all of this and all of that, which is exactly the reason why I adhered it as close to this edge as possible to give me as much cable as humanly possible. 6 meters, 18 feet may seem like a long distance until you start dealing with a motorhome, because this by itself is probably 9 feet or so. That's like another foot, so that's 10. And by the time you go through all of this, I would love if I could feed, because I'm recording this in live, I would love if I could have enough cable to actually get me there. If not, I'll have to figure out what to do. I mean, either way, this cable is going the way that it had. It's just that the internal component over here is what needs to be addressed. Alright, so in case you want to know what I did afterwards, basically put the cable in the conduit, fed it through. Those of you that have a Class C and have a step, here's my tip. You're not going to be able to take the end of your antenna, which is this, and feed it through that little hole over there. So there's a trick. If you take a screwdriver and shove it in there and then tilt it while simultaneously putting your foot into it, the step moves just a smidge enough for you to feed the thin part of the cable through there, and then you could kind of deal with the rest of it over there. So I was going to feed it through this hole over there, but since I had to yank out the step anyways, took this grommet over there, poked a hole in it, fed the cable through. I actually had to enlarge the hole just a smidge. So all of this is going here. Mercifully, the way I'm looking at the cable, this is just enough for me to kind of do what I need to do. So this up here is a mess. Obviously I've taken the stair out. So the reason why I can't proceed further is because I have to wait for the actual radio to come here and figure out what and what. Alright, well, time to wrap up this video. I hope some of this helped those of you that are interested. As you might have noticed, I post this install videos as a reference guide for other people, because myself being a YouTuber, I also rely on other people just the same on how to do a lot of stuff. So this is my passing it forward. So in the future, what I'm gonna do is, and this is like way in the future if this ever becomes a thing, I see myself taking probably a frying pan or cookie pan or something and just sticking it on the roof to use as a backer and grounding plane for the antenna. But like I said, this is as is, this is so powerful that this is way beyond any kind of need. So to get you an idea, imagine if I'm driving here, right? And like this is my Jeep over there. So that's the kind of distance that we're talking about, you know, when you're driving in caravan, or maybe a little bit further. So this is more than plenty. So this is kind of it. I guess I'll catch you next time. Thank you for watching.